Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
A guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that perfect lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name. Well, folks, we've arrived. Welcome back to PSGL. Can you believe it? This wasn't in the plan. It was never on the copybook, but it is here. We have returned. Season 35/36. And PC F1 is back on your screens yet again in what has been a turbulent time in the world of sim racing and esports, certainly in the world of Formula 1 as well. But nevertheless, PSGL is here to pick up the ball that was dropped, and we're going to be bringing you all the action. My name is, of course, George Morgan, back in the commentary box and returning to the F1 broadcast. Once again, it's the one, the only. He's not just a Field, he's Dan Field. Dan, tell us all about it.
Excited to be back here, George. Honestly, it's been so long. I think since end of 2022 was the last time I was full-time in F1. So excited to get into this new season. Very much looking forward to getting into it. And of course, we've got that surprise twist coming our way.
Yeah, it is. I've got to say, fabulous night tonight on many levels. Mainly because the grid is stacked. First of all, let's go through the lineup because it is absolutely outrageous this season. This is the full list of drivers and teams. You might as well take a look at this. This is essentially the F1 esports grid. Brendan Lee and Thomas Ronhaar lines up for Alfa Romeo, of course now known as Sauber, or should we say Stake F1. Of course, no gambling here at PSGL. Jed Norgrove and Yoni Tormler line up for the AlphaTauri team. Luke Smith and Ruben Pedreño at Alpine, with Fabrizio Donoso and Simon Weigang at Aston Martin. We've got Barry Burremand and Nicholas Longay at Ferrari. Alfie Butcher and Ulas Ozildirim at Haas. We've got Otis Lawrence, Wilson Hughes at McLaren. Mercedes line up with Jarno Opmeer, looking to become yet another time champion. Of course, has already taken 4 championships and is our reigning champion as well in PSGL in the PC tier. Of course, you can count him as a 5-time world champion if you include his PS championship victory as well. But you'd be looking to make it 5 on the PC platform, you would imagine. Jake Benham marking a return as well alongside him as well. Frederick Rasmussen, and I've got to say, one of the most controversial ones, Danny Berejnay. Of course, many of you will know him as the Mercedes driver alongside Jarno and Jake. He lines up at a Red Bull. That's only because there isn't enough Mercedes seats going around, and Berejnay looking for a full-time seat. So he lines up alongside Freddie Rasmussen. Alvaro Carreton and Ishmael Fassi line up together. Of course, Ishmael Fassi, one of the feel-good stories of the opening round, who has been absolutely stellar at F1 Esports, certainly in Event 1, where all the pressure was mounted on him heading into the LAN events. And of course, we do have a very high plethora of reserves as well lined up for the season, and we will of course go through the grid for today's race, because whilst this is the confirmed season grid, not all of those regular drivers are here tonight, but nonetheless great to have them all confirmed. Now we can confirm the track has been announced for tonight as well, and we're heading to Portimao here, Danfield. We weren't sure because they were stuck on Bahrain for quite some time, but we are doing mystery tracks here at PSGL, so none of the drivers can prepare for each round, shall we say, like they would normally do. But tonight we're off to Portimao. So obviously the bottom 5 will be eliminated. So the ones to be concerned right now are Fabrizio Donoso, Simon Weigang, 2 at Aston Martin. That obviously needs something to happen for them. Jed Norgrove as well, Luke Smith, Alvaro Carreton, the only driver yet to secure a time. And if you look at right at the very bottom, Luke Smith and Jed Norgrove obviously haven't, should we set times that are, necessarily ample, because they were done on intermediate tyres. So, they need to try and figure something out very quickly at this point. So that's 2 Williams drivers in the top 10, 2 of them in the top 6. Luke Smith now at the very bottom has only managed to muster in a 1:19.7 at this point. Now he's going to have to come out fairly quickly, because of course we're coming down now to the final 2 minutes and 50. Plenty of cars now out on outlaps, and as I'm looking at it, it's Ruben Pedreño who is going to be the first to cross the line to commence his final run. He's just making his way through turn 7 and turn 8. He needs a major play here as well, Dan, 'cause he's right on the bubble here of elimination. 15th place. It will grant him safety into Q2, but it's all to play for here with only a small matter of 1.5 minutes, or should I say 2.5 minutes remaining. Stage is now Pedreño looks to get us kicked off here with the first, should we say, time to nestle in on the board. I can tell you that Otis Lawrence has gone purple in the first sector as well, so let's not count him out just yet. Could yet topple Thomas Ronhar's time, another 1:15 to bring to the table. Pedreño now into the top 10. That's not a bad time at all here, Dan.
It's a good lap there from Ruben, but I don't know if that's going to be safe. A lot of guys out on circuit at the minute. Nicholas Longue's found himself now into P4 with a 16.0. A whole host of cars now in that third sector. We'll see if Ruben Pedreño on that time is going to be safe here.
Yeah, well, here comes Otis Lawrence, purple, remember, in Sector 1. Can he do it again here? Can he marshal a top time once again here in qualifying? Goes second fastest, Otis Lawrence. Jarno Opmeer going third fastest too. So the major players now starting to come into the fold. Plenty of other cars, though, still to cross the line as we have the Alpine of Luke Smith, who last set a 119.769. Needs this for safety to try and burst into the top 15 to secure safety into Q2. He does, goes fifth fastest and relegates Alfie Butcher as well, who's in the pits. That means he's out. Jake Benham, of course, currently occupying P17. Needs to find something here, Dan, to stay in qualifying.
Jake Benham at the minute, he is hanging on by a thread. A few more cars coming across the line. We got one of the Aston Martins up ahead, but Jake Benham certainly the driver that sticks out the most in this drop zone to me. He's about to come to the end of the second sector. What is it, his improvement? He's finding almost 0.2 of a second. It's looking good for Jake Benham, now heading through into the final sector. Alfie Butcher eliminated. Simon Weigang not able to get out of that bottom 5. A few more drivers, Fabrizio Donoso and Jake Benham, both of them in the drop zone now, coming through the final few corners. It's going to be Fabi, then Jake. Will any of these guys be able to get out of this session? Fabrizio Donoso comes into the pit lane. Jake Benham secures himself into the next session. 2,000s quicker than Danny Berejnay, and he goes P8.
Yeah, and Jed Norgrove now moved down to 16th. Unfortunately for Jed Norgrove, invalidated his flying run in Sector 1 on that final run, so he will not be making it through into Q2. So we've lost Joni Tormela, Fabrizio Donoso, Simon Weigang. Disaster for Aston Martin. Alfie Butcher out. That's a major shock as well, considering the talent that he is. And Jed Norgrove, of course, out after that mistake in that first sector. And he will not be partaking in the next session. And Wilson Hughes barely surviving, but you've got to give credit to McLaren. 2 cars now going through. Otis Lawrence putting up a very good display. And just look at how much the times have depleted as well. The top 9 now in the 1:15s, but no one could beat Thomas Ronhar. Otis Lawrence, though, credit to him, got close. He got to nearly within 1/10 of a second. But Thomas Ronhar this time going to the top and basically carries on from where he left off in Event 1 in F1 Esports. Has taken the top spot here in Q1 with Otis Lawrence in second. Freddie Rasmussen back again in third with Jarno Opmeer in fourth. Brendan Lee in fifth. Makes it a double act in the top 5 for Alfa Romeo. We then have Luke Smith in sixth. Istvan Pukki in seventh. Jake Benham further down in eighth. Danny Berejnay 9th. Shanaka Clay 10th. Nicholas Longue lines up in 11th so far with Ulas Yildirim in 12th. Alvaro Caraton 13th. Pedreño in 14th. We've got Wilson Hughes 15th, who just managed to stay in. Just look at the gaps. So we're going to lose, though. Jed Norgrove, Alfie Butcher, Simon Weigang, Fabrizio Donoso, and Joni Tormela from the session. So some major dramas already as we've just concluded action here in Q1. And I think, obviously, as we've expected, I know Thomas Ronhar has utterly brought his best to the table, but you know, again, Otis Lawrence making a name for himself here. Dan proving again that despite his youthful age, he is not intimidated by the competition. Well, so Shanaka Clay descends down the hill. A 29.304 in Sector 2 is respectable. Makes his way up towards the line now. Where's the Williams? Going to place himself a 1:15.865. Very strong start here for Shanaka Clay. Here comes Jarno Opmeer. Caraton goes second fastest. Opmeer now immediately goes to the top with a 1:15.720. But plenty of time still to be enlisted here. Brendan Lee being one of them. He'll now go second fastest just behind Jarno Opmeer. The two-time champions coming together. Otis Lawrence, he went second fastest briefly, but Ronhar has just dropped into third and has taken the fastest time again by a near 2.5 tenths of a second. Can anybody stop him?
best. And George, I don't know if you picked up on this, there's rain.
There is rain, light rain in fact, making its way around the track. We were expecting it in 2 minutes time, but a very timely fastest lap from Thomas Ronhaar. Ruben Pedreño, you can see what it's done to his deficit. Look at that, nearly 6/10, just over 6/10 slower than Thomas Ronhaar. And this is a miserable scenario here for Alpine, because if this stays like this, then we're not going to see optimal conditions for a very long time. And this rain is set to stay with us here, Dan. So this could be a very early conclusion here of qualifying. And you can see now, Rasmussen's out as well.
Wow. Jarno will see his way into Q3, but I gotta say, big loss to see Jake Benham in 11th.
Yeah, that is a major loss, but you can definitely put that down to conditions. Certainly nothing wrong with Benham's pace from what we saw in Q1. But if we consider Wilson Hughes as well, now remember, did not feature at all in F1 Esports last season. That was only due to the fact that both Lucas Blakely and Thomas Ronhaar were in contention for the title, but more on that in a minute. Thomas Ronhaar, fastest in Q2 after a stellar 1:15.499. I would call it a clutch lap, but it was right at the start, wasn't it? Nicholas Longe second, with Jarno Watmere in third, Otis Lawrence in fourth, Brendan Lee in fifth, Shanaka Clay in sixth, Danny Berejnay in seventh, Wilson Hughes in eighth, Alvaro Caraton ninth, Istvan Pukki in 10th. We're going to lose, unfortunately, Jake Benham, Freddie Rasmussen, a big scalp, gone there immediately, Ruben Pedreño in 13th, Luke Smith in 14th, and Ulas Ozyildirim, he is also out of qualifying. So there we go. Well, Jarno Watmere, though, did take the purple second sector. He's going to be the first man to cross the line very shortly, though he did lose it out to Alvaro Caraton, who has gone fastest of all in Sector 2. Here comes the Flying Dutchman. Could he be a five-time champion? Goes to the top of the 1:25.016. Second fastest for Brendan Lee. We have also got Thomas Ronhaar. Not enough to topple Watmere. Two Dutchmen occupying Ps1 and 2. First blood to Jarno Watmere at this stage. Though we've still got more drivers crossing the line. Caraton going a very respectable third fastest. Pukki fourth. We got Lee, of course, like I said before, he's now down to P5. Shanaka Clay, who was impressive on the run-up here to Q3. Sixth fastest. Can he improve? Certainly. Remember, he did invalidate. That is, of course, for sure. Wilson Hughes going sixth fastest. Nicholas Longe now occupying P7. Not necessarily the best time to muscle in. Danny Berejnay is going to look to try and unleash a big lap as well. Has actually gone purple in the second sector, so this looks good for Berejnay as he now makes his way towards the line. Otis Lawrence has also invalidated, remember, but is going around again. A lot of the drivers will remain out on track here in wet conditions. Jarno has just gone purple again in the first sector. Berejnay to the top with a 1:24.821. The track seems to be improving. Jarno finding purple in that first sector and a personal improvement in Sector 2 as well, Dan.
This is what happens when more and more drivers set times in these intermediate conditions. That dry line begins to form, which means more grippers, of course, appearing on the circuit. Jarno Watmere improving by 0.2 of a second. He's completely flat on the battery, approaching the line. Is that going to matter? Yes, it will, unfortunately. Lost time in Sector 3, 24.9 for the Dutchman. Not enough to topple his Mercedes teammate, of course, in different colours here this evening. We've got a few more drivers in that final sector. Otis Lawrence being one of them, to the line for the young Welshman, and it's a 1:24.755, almost a full 10th clear of Danny Berejnay. A fantastic effort from him there, and it's looking like, George, my prediction is in good stead at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting. Thomas Ronhaar opting not to stay out and register another lap. A couple of drivers feel comfortable registering another lap. Instead of coming into the pits, occupying another, fresh set of tyres, they would prefer to stay out on track and go again. Jarno did that, managed to muscle in that purple Sector 1. Otis, of course, doing that as well. Obviously adding enough fuel to go around again, and obviously setting in an additional lap allows those tyres to heat up that little bit more as well. So maybe that's Otis's plan. Sometimes some drivers prepare for that. Danny Berejnay now in second. I got to give Berejnay credit for that first run. Brilliant to marshal a P1 time. Currently sits, though, just under 1.5 tenths, I think, on paper. In fact, no, less than that. Nearly 3/4 of a tenth slower than Otis Lawrence. Of course, Otis said in that blistering 1:24.755 in wet conditions. That is truly remarkable, though I would expect there being more time to be found from the likes of Ronhaar as well. Brendan Lee also down in 8th place. Depends on the setups too here as well, Dan, because with the wet weather conditions, the driver's obviously not prepared for the track, but they're also not prepared necessarily for the weather either. So in terms of setup, selection, setup choice, it is very much in the rounds of mystery at this stage.
Now, George, I've just seen Otis Lawrence up by almost a tenth and a half in that first sector. He's already on provisional pole position at the minute. It's looking very good for the young driver. Nicholas Longay is he's far down on his lap at the minute, so I think all the eyes surely have got to go the way of Otis Lawrence. Jarno Opmeer is just ahead of him on circuit, down unfortunately in sector 2. Otis, however, has lost time as well through that second part of the lap. The clock has struck 0. No new laps can be completed. Who's going to take pole?
I'll tell you what, it could be a shock here. The one driver that is not in F1 Esports cannot qualify for F1 Esports just due to mere age. The youngest, shall we say, prospect in F1 sim racing, who's currently on top here, and could yet grab pole off the most vastly experienced drivers you'll see in the scene. Otis backing out altogether. Jarno has finished 4th fastest. Danny Berejne, who currently sits on the front row, not improving either. 2nd fastest at this point. Shanaka Clay in 3rd as well. He's not improving at this stage. Someone who is improving, though, is Nicholas Longay. A clutch lap on the table here. 24.3 in Sector 1 looks good. Brendan Lee still looking for improvements. I don't think he's going to improve. In fact, 31.5 in Sector 1. Less than impressive, but Longay, he is well and truly up on his time, as you'd expect, his last time being a 1:48.13. So he needs something massive here to try and topple those further up ahead of him at this stage now, as we see Longay dipping down. The final 2 corners that remain on this circuit. A 1:34.027 is what he registered last time. And now, after a 24.3 in Sector 1, 33.6 in Sector 2, it might not be pretty right now, but it could be brilliant come the end of the clock. No! Lost out, should we say, in the last sector at 28.1. I don't think he's necessarily got a wet setup on here, Dan.
I don't think that is really to the fault of Nicholas Longay. I was riding on board with him throughout most of that lap, and it didn't seem like he was slow really at all. I just think that the track has potentially gotten worse throughout this session. The rain seems to have picked up, so I think conditions have gotten worse, and that is why no one has really been able to improve on their laps. Otis Lawrence taking pole position, the only driver who is not eligible to be on the F1 Esports grid, has taken pole position here in PSGL. Remarkable stuff from the young McLaren Shadow, the Veloce Academy, whatever he's a part of. He's doing a fantastic job, and he's on pole ahead of Danny Berejne.
Yes, some major shocks here in Q3, though the biggest one, it's Otis Lawrence, the only young starlet that can't qualify for F1 Esports. He goes fastest of anybody, does the young Welshman, representing the McLaren Shadow outfit, and has gone fastest and higher than Danny Berejne, who also joins him on the front row. Shanaka Clay as well, answering back the critics. 3rd fastest here at Portimao, with Jarno Opmeer in 4th. Thomas Ronha in 5th fastest as well, just not quite muscling in that time that he needs to grant himself top spot. Alvaro Caraton in 6th. Brendan Lee in 7th, Istvan Pukki in 8th, with Wilson Hughes in 9th, Nicholas Longay in 10th place. That's your top 10 heading through to the race later on. Some dramatic scenes, the weather certainly with grand implications into the results, but nevertheless, we're going to be back very shortly, folks. Do not go away. We're going to take a very short commercial break. To be fair now, the lights are about to go red here, folks, at Portimao. Here we go. And it's pedal to the metal. And it is go, 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 go. And Otis Lawrence with a great jump. Danny Berejne a little slow off the line. Shanaka Clay testing him, heading through turns 1 and 2. Ronha and Opmeer coming together. And Ronha has immediately tried unseating the Flying Dutchman as the two of them go wheel to wheel. Heading through towards turn 4. And it is going to be Ronha who takes 4th away from Jarno Opmeer. But it's Otis Lawrence who leads here at Portugal as we see them come round Torrevip.
Fantastic stuff from Thomas Ronha, getting himself ahead of Jarno Opmeer. Lots of move being made further back behind. Thomas Ronha is on a flyer all over the rear of Shanaka Clay at the minute as they're all swapping, changing positions, following through in this first sector. Fantastic start today.
Yeah, blistering start indeed. Plenty of action still to come, though. We've got a long race ahead. 33 laps in total. A little tap there from Longay's rear end. Meets the front wing of Ruben Pedreño at this point. Plenty, though, within 2.5 tenths, 3 tenths of a second. Nothing separating them. The gaps will be thinner than flies' eyelashes as we now see Thomas Ronhart once again on the tail of Shanaka Clay. Now, differing strategies further down. Caraton occupying the mediums, as is Brendan Lee. So not a surprise to see the two Alfa Romeos occupying two alternate strats as Ronhart now goes for the move, this time past Shanaka Clay, who's unfortunately going to lose out here. P3 on the table. Berejne staying behind Otis Lawrence despite the aero heading down towards turn 1, but Ronhart blistering at the start.
Incredible stuff from the Dutchman there. Of course, winning round number 1 of the F1 Esports Series. He is carrying that momentum forward here into PSGL, already making up 2 places ahead of Shanaka Clay and Jarno Otmir. Brendan Lee is down the inside of Alvaro Caraton, further back behind as they're going to run now wheel to wheel towards turn number 5, 6 and 7. And it seems like Alvaro Caraton has just about been able to muscle out Brendan Lee there. Great to see so much battling already. But George, it's a long race. We're only on lap number 2 of 33 here.
Yeah, and they're going to be under pressure here, Brendan Lee and Caraton. Certainly in the initial, because the medium tyres certainly aren't faster, but amazing move there from Brendan Lee. Oh, took him by surprise as they came through turn 10 at Portimao. The blind right-hander, Caraton, did not see it coming. That is the mark of an experienced and a former F1 Esports champion. Brendan Lee with a stellar move here on lap 2. So let's sit tight here as we see the cars make their way through Tora Vip. Still Lawrence leads. Ronhart now getting to within 2/10 of Jarno Otmir. So these two starting to close up again. It seems that Ronhart might be more effective in the corners, maybe preferring a higher downforce setup here at this stage, which might also answer as to why he was so effective in qualifying. We'll have to wait and see whether that is the case, as we now see them head through towards the final sector. There is Freddie Rasmussen, and in comes Luke Smith as well, coming together with Wilson Hughes. Hughes trying to defend here, has got the McLaren in front of the Alpine. A switch back here from Smith, can't quite open the door, but Hughes now retaining P11. It was a very, very tight and contested situation heading through towards Sector 3, but Hughes doing enough.
Yeah, I think that's a smart move from all of those drivers. Of course, Jed Norgrove with that undercut was potentially threatening their positions, but they've covered that one off there, and they should all be able to stay ahead of Jed Norgrove, just heading down now in towards turn number 1 as everyone is exiting the pit lane. The undercut, of course, can be a very powerful tool that you can utilize, and in fact, Jed Norgrove's come out ahead of Wilson Hughes, but the tyre drop-off on this game and the difference that 1 or 2 laps makes on the tyres is immense. So got to watch out for Jed Norgrove being a little bit slower later on in the race, and that is why some drivers particularly prefer to go for that overcut. I know Jarno Otmir very fond of staying out long on his initial stint and then getting that overcut later, pitting later.
Yeah, massive move here for Freddie Rasmussen after a little mistake here from Istvan Pukki, again having issues with this time the brakes. The car just getting a little squirrely heading out of Tora Vip, and it was certainly Freddie who literally plumbed for it at the very last moment, found the inside line, made his way through. A stellar run from Rasmussen, as now we're seeing more and more cars make their way in. Now we are seeing Clay come into the pits as well. Jarno Otmir on the push now. Danny Berejne going for the lead of the race here now on lap 13. Here comes Jarno Otmir as well, side by side with Otis Lawrence. The battle against young and experienced drivers coming together here at Portimao. And Otis has not only lost the lead, but he's lost P2 as well. Berejne now in front.
Oh, but here comes Otis Lawrence in towards Tora Vip. Will be trying to look to go down the inside of Jarno Otmir, almost into the back of the Flying Dutchman, and that could have been disastrous. The Otis Lawrence was heavy on the battery, trying to go on the attack of the Dutchman, who's ever so slightly pushed out in turn number 1, which is why I think he's got a chip on his shoulder with the Dutchman. Now 2 Mercedes esports drivers leading this Grand Prix. Otis Lawrence relegated from 1st to 3rd in the span of just 1 corner, but of course the pit stops have to come very, very soon. Thomas Ronhart had the best view in the house, and he's all over once again on the rear of Otis Lawrence. No brakes for the McLaren driver this evening. Is in towards turn number 13. Ronhart had to think of it, but I'd imagine all these drivers now that we've seen Shanaka Clay come into the box, and Jake Benham as well, they are going to think about coming in for their set of the mediums.
Yeah, surely they've got to respond now. You'd figure that the top 4 are going to come in this lap. There's Danny Berejne. Of course, he doesn't have to worry about Freddie Rasmussen because he's already pitted. In comes as well Jarno Otmir. So, they're side by side in the pit lane. Otis and Jarno there, very close together. And they were fighting over who was going to lead between the pair of them heading into the pits. I've never seen that before. But absolutely phenomenal scenes. The gall of Otis Lawrence to try something like that was unbelievable.
He really did try to make the move on Jarno Ottmar. I don't think he's happy whatsoever with what happened down at turn number 1. I gotta say, it's hard, fair racing. Simon Weigang once again getting a penalty. Now it's both Aston Martin drivers. Here's Shanaka Clay coming out just ahead of Jarno Ottmar. Jarno not going to take this one lying down, and they're going to be side by side for what is a net P2 in through turn number 3 and 4. Otis Lawrence looking to find his way into this fight as well. Jarno Ottmar going to be all over the rear of Shanaka Clay, who's got those warmed up medium tyres. Into Torrey Vip they go. They're all going to run in tandem. Freddie Rasmussen, though, he's done a fantastic job with his undercut. Now up the inside of Otis Lawrence. Almost went for that move, but he's backed out now through turn number 5.
Yeah, outrageous scenes indeed. Freddie Rasmussen not too worried about sticking his oar in. He has done so now consistently so far. Penalties have been mustered to both Aston Martins as well. Unfortunately for Weigang and Donoso, both of them with 3 seconds. We got battles further back as well. It's getting so fraught between Istvan Pukki and Jake Benham once again. And remember, Benham was causing problems for Pukki earlier on. They're going to remain wheel to wheel. It's Mercedes v Ferrari heading through the final sector, and Jake Benham with the inside line heading through towards the final 2 corners, heading out of turn 14. Absolutely sensational. The stamina test from Jake Benham. He asked the major questions and he has taken it from Pukki, but Pukki's coming straight back here, Dan. Yeah, it certainly is. Brendan Lee, of course, is currently leading this race, though in terms of the net phase at this point, of course, that is Danny Berejne, who leads here in PSGL. And this, of course, being round 1 here at Portimao. Remember, mystery race. The track was chosen at random, and of course not revealed until just before we got started in the session. So none of the drivers have had the opportunity to practice. This is going to be a very true test of performance from the drivers as well. Dan, have you got an update?
Oh, Thomas Ronhard looked for the move in turn number 13 on the back of Freddie Rasmussen. Didn't quite come off this time by, but Thomas Ronhard with those 2 lap fresher medium tyres, he's looking to go for the move.
Yeah, he certainly is. Coming down the corner now, we're seeing Ruben Pedreño coming into the pits for his stop, but Ronhard with the switchback heading through the final corner and over the line now. Danny Berejne picking up the fastest lap of the race. Jarno Ottmar as well on a charge, looking to try and gain closer and closer. Further back, though, we do have Rasmussen and Ronhard coming together, and Ronhard has taken 13th away on track. Sensational move indeed, and that could make all the difference. P5 in terms of a net showing right now, with Shanaka Clay dead in front of Jarno Ottmar. Otis Lawrence making up that train as well, but Berejne still out in front and comfortable in terms of this net lead situation. It's also important to note as well, folks, that generally Jarno Ottmar isn't the strongest qualifier, far better as a racer. But here at this stage, being pressurised here by Otis Lawrence, who's going to look for a move here on the Flying Dutchman. Now, these two were together earlier on. Fastest lap here for Thomas Ronhard. It was briefly Otis Lawrence, but Jarno Ottmar benefiting off the overspeed that he got from Shanaka Clay, and that moves him up into net P2 on track. That was very smart. In comes now Otis Lawrence, immediately trying to follow Jarno through here as they come through towards turn 4. Clay and Lawrence coming together as they then make their way towards Torrey Vip. The McLaren squeezing for the room as they head down now towards turn 5. Wheel to wheel they stay. Clay, though, fighting back as they now peel through up the hill here. Certainly Lawrence trying to be put into his place here by Shanaka Clay. Can Clay hold on? Wheel to wheel they stay. They're not letting anything slide. They'll be wheel to wheel through the entirety of the first 2 sectors here, Dan.
Here comes Thomas Ronhard looking to go 3 wide potentially. Oh, Shanaka wheel to wheel for almost the whole sector at this point. It looks like Shanaka gonna come out on top. In comes Thomas Ronhard looking to make the move on the pair of them. Down the inside in towards turn number 13. Otis Lawrence looking now back up the inside. It's gone wrong for Thomas Ronhard. Freddie Rasmussen arriving onto the scene as now in towards turn number 15. Phenomenal racing we're seeing at the minute. They're still wheel to wheel. Otis Lawrence now still gonna go up the inside. I think finally has made that move stick on Shanaka Clay, and here comes Freddie Rasmussen.
It's like Noah's Ark. They went in 2 by 2. They were 3 wide though, and now Freddie Rasmussen is looking to topple them all here as they run wheel to wheel. Certainly could not quite get past Lawrence, but he got past Shanaka Clay. Absolutely sensational from Freddie Rasmussen and also Otis Lawrence, but Clay and Ronhard gave it everything. Rasmussen, though, here at this stage, he was literally a mere spectator only moments ago, but now he is up to P12 on track, and now P4 in a net standpoint.
I gotta say, that might be the best lap of racing I have ever witnessed here in PSGL. 5 drivers total scrapping for position. Insane stuff that we have just witnessed here in PSGL. Otis Lawrence and Shanika Clay wheel to wheel for almost the whole lap at that point, and they did not make contact, I believe, once throughout the entirety of that. The race craft is the highest you will ever see. Freddie Rasmussen and Thomas Ronhaar taking their opportunities. Didn't quite work out for Ronhaar, but Rasmussen now up into a net P4. Insane stuff here.
Yeah, well, the big problem now for Thomas Ronhaar is the fact that Otis Lawrence has lost DRS here on Jarno Otmir, so it's Berejne and Otmir who are currently fighting it out for the win. But look at Shanaka Clay now on the tail of Freddie Rasmussen. More cars coming into the pits to serve their stops, but here they come now, closing down on each other. Clay now down the inside of Rasmussen, looking to try and fire back after Rasmussen took him only a lap ago, and Clay has managed to fire back into now the net standing of the top 4, and now back again comes Thomas Ronhaar as these three bring a spectacle to PSGL round 1.
Thomas Ronhaar up the inside of Freddie Rasmussen now. What a move up in through Torre Vip. They're going to run wheel to wheel once again into the second sector. I think Freddie Rasmussen's had enough battling for at least a lap or two. He backs out and allows for Thomas Ronhaar to go up the inside there. And you know, that move has been made for the Dutchman. But now this has sort of, George, created a bit of a rift in throughout most of the pack. I can see Luke Smith and Istvan Pukki doing battle at the minute. Luke Smith down the inside and gets his way through into P15, but it seems like a bit of a rift has formed between now the top 2 and the rest of the field, because Jarno Otmir is now a second clear of Otis Lawrence, and I've just noticed at the top of the order the mediums are in.
Yeah, they are, and let me just say, I give credit to Otis. He's managed to pull 2 tenths in to close up here on Jarno Otmir, so there is a chance that 2 tenths has now been dwarfed as now Thomas Ronhaar goes to the move on Shanaka Clay, and this is going to be so easy heading through towards turn 1 because Clay has no slipstream to benefit from here, and Ronhaar bursts through into 7th place and now chasing after Otis Lawrence. Otis, though, losing more time hand over fist now, has lost 2 tenths further here away from Jarno Otmir, which really does put these, or certainly this conglomerate of cars, at a standstill. This is allowing Berejne and Otmir to career onwards and upwards.
There is a semblance of hope. He's closing in to the DRS range of Jarno Otmir, but he's not going to have it in towards turn number 1. And here comes Ronhaar.
Yeah, it certainly is. 3 tenths now within as we now see a battle brewing further up. Jarno Otmir going for the lead here of the race as he surpasses Danny Berejne and now takes helm as the net race leader here at Portimao. Simon Weigang may still be on top, but he's got to come into pit. It's Jarno Otmir now at the head of the field with Berejne in 3rd. Ronhaar now further back, who's managed to get past Otis Lawrence, and he is only 1.1 away from Danny Berejne. This race is not over yet.
Further back as well, don't forget about Brendan Lee, about Alvaro Caraton and Nicholas Longe as well. 1 lap old, soft tyres, going to have incredible amounts of pace over these worn out mediums. It's just a matter of getting through on all of these drivers and fighting your way to the front.
Yeah, Brendan Lee now in the wheel tracks of Wilson Hughes. Thomas Ronhaar has managed to reclaim DRS and is now within 6 tenths of Danny Berejne as well. Simon Weigang comes into the pits. Here comes Brendan Lee, 2-time F1 esports champion. He was the very first to take it back in 2017, and now looking for a very fast second stint on the soft compound of tyres. He moves up to 10th place out of Wilson Hughes and heading through in towards turn 2, in towards turn 3 and out of turn 4. Next on his list is Istvan Pukki and Lee on the climb.
Brendan Lee already all over the rear of Istvan Pukki, down the inside of the Ferrari driver. Of course, Brendan Lee's former team last season in esports. He's now got his way through on Istvan Pukki. Sensational stuff from him, and it's just about picking them off one at a time, not using these tyres up too much, and he should be able to get his way up into that top 5 and potentially be taking the fight to the 2 Mercedes leaders of Danny Berejne and Jarno Otmir.
Yeah, I can tell you Brendan Lee now starting to verge up here on Jake Benham. The All-Star is going to have a lot to worry about here because Lee has been absolutely rapid on this slick, soft tyre as they now head through the final segments of this circuit to end lap 22 and begin lap 23. It is going to be, I'm sure, without any shadow of a doubt, Brendan Lee who's going to make the moves here on Jake Benham. And Polak's his way through the field, but there is a slight gap now between Benham and those further up as well, as we're now seeing Lee surpass the Mercedes. Of course, a former Mercedes driver. He won an F1 Esports title as a Mercedes driver. He's now with Alfa Romeo Sauber, and alongside Thomas Ronhaar, they're looking to jettison their way. It's securing the big points for the Sauber team. Still, though, Danny Berejnay leads whilst he's in a Red Bull. Technically, it's the Mercedes 1-2 here at this stage on lap 23, soon to be lap 24. More cars, though, starting to queue up for a potential attack against the likes of Jarno Opmeer as well as Otis Lawrence, because Shanaka Clay also putting the burners on as they head down now through towards turn 1. Alvaro Caraton starting to lofty himself higher and higher as well on the softs, now ahead of Jake Benham, and that is two drivers that have occupied that soft tyre strat in the final stint. They're now both in the top 10, including, remember, of course, Brendan Lee, who made those crucial overtakes earlier on. And look at that, Lee already within DRS on Freddie.
Brendan Lee's in the train, yeah, he's right at the rear of this top 7. What a star-studded grid we have at the minute, fighting for the win. Brendan Lee potentially could win it all if he's able to save these tyres for the next few laps and go for the moves on Freddie Rasmussen and Shanaka Clay when the time is right. And I think the intentions have been made clear from most of the leaders not to fight at this point, because there's a bigger threat in behind. There he is up the inside through turn number 10. Brendan Lee has arrived.
Yeah, Brendan Lee making the crucial moves and already now surpassing a 4-time consecutive F1 Esports runner-up. That, of course, being Freddie Rasmussen, who's now reduced to 7th place. Shanaka Clay in trouble, knows that there is a looming Alfa Romeo Sauber on his tail right now. 2 corners remain here on lap 24. Lap 25 will begin, and Brendan Lee is chopping down the delta, knocking down the cars like timber as they make their way down towards turn 1 again. Lee switching all over the back of Clay as they go wheel to wheel through towards turn 1. Got the move done even before the apex, and Caraton also lurching past Luke Smith. Look out now, Lee is a-coming.
Yeah, Brendan Lee into that top 5 now, fighting for a potential podium on the back of Otis Lawrence, already off the exit at turn number 4. In towards Torrey Vip they go, down the inside, easy as you like from Brendan Lee there. Now he's got his teammate and the 2 Mercedes Esports drivers of Jarno Opmeer and Danny Berejnay at the minute now, until he leads this Grand Prix on lap number 25 of 33. How high can he climb? How easy will he make these moves, or is the top 3 going to give him grief?
Well, I tell you what, you can look at the driver's pace, you can look at their talents. Obviously, you've got a 2-time F1 Esports champion, and you've got potentially a champion in waiting in Thomas Ronhaar. But also, you've got to look at what's going on behind the scenes, because we all know there's been a lot of work put into the Sauber team in terms of engineering as well. And the likes of Seb Kowalski, who is also a very well-known and reputable engineer, no doubt going to work here for both Ronhaar and Lee, and has played a peripheral role in them securing this very positive position, has certainly handed a very positive sort of level of assistance alongside that of Ronhaar and Lee. And when you combine the two in terms of pace and strategical common sense, it can make all the difference to a driver's race. And now we have got Sauber occupying P3 and 4 on track, with only Danny Berejnay and Jarno Opmeer in front of them here. Now, the only one thing that Berejnay and Opmeer might have to their credit is the fact that they might have been saving tyres and Ronhaar allowing Lee through. Strategic elements being applied here by the Sauber team, Dan.
Minute, we'll see what happens as they head in through turn number 15 of Galp. Jarno Opmeer going to have to try and defend, I think, from Brendan Lee. He's got 52% in the battery there. Is he going to close up? I don't think so. I think Brendan Lee happy to sit behind for the time being, but George, the laps are running out here.
Yeah, and I know what Jarno's thinking right now. He has to allow Brendan Lee to start using those tyres because that can make all the difference come the end of the race. He's got 7 laps accrued on him. If you remember the first stint, they started to sort of die off here at this stage. So Lee has got to make the most of them now, and ASAP as he makes his way down towards Torrey Vip. A surprise move down the inside, a look down the inside as he looked to spring a trap here on Jarno Opmeer. Both of them 2-time F1 Esports champions. Both of them did it consecutively. Both of them at the top of the record books where it comes to performing at the highest level, and they're now together here at the track, here at PSGL and here at Portimao, and sniffing the rear on that Mercedes is Brendan Lee. He likes moves here at this point on track. He's going to try the outside here as they come through now wheel to wheel, and Brendan Lee on the softs. He had the grip with the soft tyre, he had the pace, he had the momentum. It's Brendan Lee into P2 and chasing former teammate Danny Berejnay.
Turning back the pages now, it is the current esports Mercedes driver of Danny Berejnay against his former Mercedes teammate in Brendan Lee, heading in towards turn number 1. Brendan Lee not too close to the rear of Danny at this moment in time. He's going to happily close up to the back, but he's using the battery. He's going to go up the inside in towards turn number 1 for the lead of this race. Brendan Lee moves.
Yeah, it looks like Brendan Lee is certainly back. Lap 28
at the front of the order.
Lap 28 of 33. Brendan Lee leads the way. And for the first time in a long, long time, though, being answered back by Danny Berejnay, who is certainly not content with remaining in second place. Otmir now in third. Ronha in fourth, as well with Lawrence queued up in behind. This race is far from over. Alvaro Carreton making big moves as well. Stay tuned in, folks. You do not want to miss a thing. Brendan Lee leading the way, but he knows he must try and break Berejnay before the tyres die off.
Is it going to be enough for Jan Otmir and Thomas Ronha to take the fight to Brendan Lee and Danny Berejnay for the final time in this race? They're going to head on towards lap number 33 of 33 for this show-stopper finish. Here comes Danny Berejnay on the back of Brendan Lee. This is when you got to dump the battery, use your DRS, go for the moves. He can see Brendan Lee is flashing with the ERS. Here comes Berejnay to the outside line of turn number 1. No defense possible for Brendan Lee there, and Danny Berejnay is back into the lead.
He certainly is, though, but if you think Brendan Lee's going to take that line down, he certainly isn't. Fabrizio Donoso has retired from the race. Berejnay now may have taken the lead here in this instance, but Toravip may present a different question here. Lee then threatening a little bit of hesitation on the front of the Sauber driver as Otmir still retains P3. It's kicking off. Otis Lawrence had a chance heading down through towards turn 1, but Berejnay still in control.
And Brendan Lee has pulled this strategy off to such a strong degree, making up 5 places in this Grand Prix to only come off second best. It's a disappointing way to end, but I think all the opportunities have gone awry for him. Danny Berejnay now coming in towards Sector 3 for the final time, just has to navigate 3 more corners until he wins this race.
He certainly does. He's been absolutely stellar on his PSGL return. We said last season about his regularity in the top 10 and how well he performed in the Haas alongside Alfie Butcher, but now he is in a Red Bull. Certainly controversial is what we all thought, but Danny Berejnay, roll back the years, a vintage display. It will be Berejnay brilliance here at Portimao. He wins here in PSGL round 1. Brendan Lee also rolling back the years. What a 1-2 that really is, with Jarno Otmir making up 2-2-time F1 Esports champions, occupying podiums, with Ronha in 4th. A grandiose day for Alfa Romeo, who occupies 2nd and 4th, 2 cars in the top 5. No other constructor has done that, certainly in this race. Otis Lawrence take a bow. Despite starting pole and losing out, he still retained P5. And not a bad day for Williams either, Danfield. 6th and 7th for Alvaro Carreton, and a welcome return for Shanaka Clay. What a performance, what a race. I tell you what, how about that for round 1, folks? Absolutely outrageous. 3 legends of the sport. And it was Danny Berejnay this time. I tell you what, don't count him out. Could we be seeing Berejnay back to his brilliant best? We saw flickers of it last season in PSGL where he was driving the Haas. He is now back on top this time. A victory in race 1 for Berejnay. A perfect race of sorts. He managed his opening stint brilliantly. The pit stop phase came round. He brought it home. He managed his pace. He stayed behind Brendan Lee till the very last moments and then pulled the plug on a potential Brendan Lee assault. But look at that. The top 3 vastly well decorated in terms of F1 esports. And what a stellar display. Let's take you through the results. Danny Berejnay, your race winner. Brendan Lee in 2nd. Jarno Otmir 3rd. Thomas Ronha in 4th. Otis Lawrence in 5th. Alvaro Carreton 6th with Shanaka Clay in 7th. Grandiose return for Shanaka Clay after his difficult times of late. Freddie Rasmussen in 8th with Jake Benham in 9th. Ulas Osyldrim in 10th. Luke Smith in 11th. Ruben Pedreño in 12th. Yoni Tormler 13th. Wilson Hughes 14th. Simon Weigang 15th. Nicholas Longay 16th. Alfie Butcher in 17th. Jade Norgrove 18th, Istvan Pukki in 19th. Of course, we saw Donoso retire on the final lap of the race. Well, folks, are you gobsmacked? Because I am gobsmacked. What a race to kick things off here at PSGL. I'm mind blown.
He's got the inside, but here is through on the left-hand side. Hugs the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the GOAT is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.